Secretary Letnick also saying basically to expect dozens of deals in the next month or so. So there's high expectations being set by the administration for some more breakthroughs, as they call it, in terms of trade negotiations with various countries.
Well, if this is a framework deal, this is a deal structure we can apply to other deals. And it sounds to me like we're going to find the three countries where how many countries are there in the world?
180, Tim.
Okay, we'll find three of them that possibly actually have a trade surplus on the other side. Look, the bottom line is I will get back to my market's view on this because I don't understand why we need to have a balanced trade with every country in the world. It seems ludicrous and something that makes zero economic sense. But I do think that the worst of the trade rhetoric for the market is over. And in fact, I think if you look at the market has done, at some point intraday, I think even on the NASDAQ, we are, I think, at a bull market off that intraday low. In other words, we've actually gone up over 20% from those intraday lows on April 7th. So I think it's great that people are talking. I think the 90 days will go by quickly. I think the bottom line is I think the sense we have is wherever that Trump put is, it's a function of a lot of different ingredients, but that, getting out there with the UK, possibly Japan, possibly India, this is what we're looking at. But there was nothing about what we heard today that gives you confidence that this plan is one that really is going to be a panacea for a deficit.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, March 2018, first Trump administration. They threw some tariffs on. Nothing like this, by the way. It took them nearly 2 years, right, to get a phase one deal. Listen, it's constructive, but this is something that actually didn't need to happen. I mean, if you're worried about these sorts of trade deficits, which they obviously are, you can go about it and just kind of get your allies first in line and then really kind of focus on your major adversary, which is China. When you think about the surplus that we had, Tim just mentioned that, and you think about really the total amount of trade, $150 billion with the UK. We're obviously one of their biggest trading partners. They're number 9 on our point. Put Canada and Mexico together, and it's 10%. This is the UK, this kind of total trade. 10% of that, and we obviously have a big deficit with those two countries. And I mean, you just got to figure out how to, what's the baseline for this sort of thing? If we have 10% across the board for the whole globe, that's going to weigh on global growth, something that didn't exist when we were coming into 2025.
It will weigh, but at least that would be certainty, right? I mean, if it were resolved and somebody announced tomorrow, it's 10% across the board. I think the markets will be relieved, and at least you have a framework, a basis to work off of. Julie Beal, but of course, all eyes are going to be this weekend. The USTR, as well as Secretary Besson, are going to head over to Switzerland and meet with the counterparts there to initiate conversation with China. President Trump said that he's expecting some big things out of there. Other people are saying it's just going to be an icebreaker.
Yeah, it sounds like it's talks about talking. Maybe later at some point we might work something out. It's still really, really preliminary. And I think that's the most important point about this is that if I look at the deal with the UK, this is like our bestie. And still, we're talking about 10% on our bestie. And that, I agree that, most businesses can really figure stuff out once they have the clarity. But 10% on some companies that have very, very thin margins is going to be pretty tough to actually digest. And I think that's going to be a realization that people are going to have to really incorporate into their estimates and their earnings, right? A lot of guidance that we've gotten so far through the earnings season has been really vague, and it's just because there's nothing they can really latch on to. I think the most important thing coming out of this weekend is some kind of understanding of a framework. And I think what people are really looking for is scale, right? It's some kind of anchor number that they can put their, arms around in terms of not being at 145%. If it's, half that, that's great. At least people can factor that into their models.